News alert, an explosion of violent crime across the nation, raising fears ahead of the weekend. In Chicago, deadly attacks surging in just the past 24 hours. 4 people shot and killed, 28 others wounded, including a 9-year-old girl and a 1-month-old baby girl. Both shot in the head in separate attacks and critically wounded. This comes amid a stunning and heartbreaking surge of children being targeted in the Windy City. The numbers just this year showing 25 juveniles murdered in a range of attacks. And when it comes to shootings, 172 children have been shot in just the past 6 months. These are just some of their faces. Young lives cut short by the rise in violence. One faith leader warning that our children are becoming extinct. Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez sounding off ahead of an emergency meeting today with Mayor Lori Lightfoot and the police chief. Watch.
The mayor is not up to the job to keeping the city of Chicago safe, and we want her on record, not in a backroom meeting. We want her on record to explain how she's going to keep Chicagoans safe. Whereas we have seen mass shootings on the rise. We had a shooting in front of my house yesterday by gangbangers checking someone who just happened to come home with his girlfriend. It is out of control, and we need to get some results that keep people safe.
Joey, why does it seem as if politicians continue to fail to appreciate, to grasp the enormity of the tragedy, the magnitude of the tragedy coming out of especially Chicago?
You know what really takes me is if there was a mass shooting in Chicago tomorrow, you can bet the mayor would hold a press conference and spend hours lecturing us on all the reasons why it's everyone else's fault. That would be tragic. It'd be terrible. There's a tragedy of the same size about every week there. It's a mass shooting one day at a time. And the mayor is where the buck stops. I think every federal law enforcement agency in the country should have a footprint there. I think that it should feel like there's a police on every corner until they figure out the root cause, as Kamala would like to say, because that would appease them and their voters, but more importantly, until they stop this killing. At the end of the day, the person pulling the trigger may in fact be a victim of a lot of things, from no parents to a bad system, but they're nowhere near more important than the victim of the other end of that gun. And those people are criminals, and they need to be put behind bars so that the rest of the people in Chicago have a chance at life.
And Tommy, the vast majority of these homicides, almost 75%, are young black men there in Chicago. Are Democrats at a crossroads?
Democrats are certainly at a crossroads because they need to really decide if they want to support Black Lives Matter, the idea, or Black Lives Matter, the organization, because Black Lives Matter, the organization, is very forthright about their goals to defund the police. So though Democrats are now trying to gaslight and say that they are not for defunding the police, which we know is a blatant lie, they need to be asked straight up, do you still support the organization BLM? Because if you do, if you continue to celebrate them, to placate to them, then you support defund the police. But furthermore, criminals know what's going on. They know not only that police departments are being defunded, but they know that the consequences for their actions are less. They know that they can get away with more. They're well aware that departments are being shorted and that recruitment is down. They know this. They also know if they do get in a situation where they are confronted by an officer, their go-to is to resist arrest and maybe become the next social media headline or the next CNN headline, and they feel that they've got largely a pass. They know what's going on. It's time for Democrats to have a day of reckoning and decide what their priorities are: law-abiding, decent Americans, or thugs, felons in the BLM organization. Choice is simple.
And Harris, the Chicago Mayor Lightfoot has called the reporting on these heartbreaking murders, the legitimate public outcry at the extinction of children there, as, quote, racist and sexist.
Yeah, I mean, those are the new jump words, right? I mean, you just jump right off the pier and drag everybody with you into the water if you get called one of those names. And she knows that. She knows that then suddenly the conversation is over when you call somebody racist. It doesn't solve any of her problems, though. Last hour, I had former Congresswoman Maya Rockeymoore Cummings, also the widow of the civil rights icon Elijah Cummings, on. And I said specifically, this is black on black crime in most instances. We're not talking about cops, white cops killing black men. You gave that statistic of the percentage of the people who were dying in the streets of Chicago. You're spot on, Emily. And I said, so where's the peaceful protests? Where are the people in the streets? She punted on that question. I gave her extra time. She didn't answer it. And when I called her on it, she said, oh, well, I'm happy to get into that. And I said, yeah, but I gave you a shot. I'm not going to let her talk over my other guest, Matt Schlapp's time. Like, that's not fair. You had your shot. I'll come back to you. So that's where we are. It's an ostrich syndrome. Don't want to look at it, don't want to hold others accountable who could change it by looking at it. It's like they're lost or manipulative. Because if you don't say it, then it can't be misquoted, and Lord knows you don't want to tick off the far left if you are in politics.
And Kayleigh, horrifyingly, this trend, this sustained murder of our children is not new.
Yeah, I mean, stop and think about that quote that you read in your introduction. Our children are becoming extinct. Think about how heartbreaking that is. I want to put up a cover that has haunted me ever since I saw it. It's from last July of the New York Post. I'll never forget seeing this. This was Deval Gardner. He was 1 year old at a barbecue when he lost his life, and that is his casket there. And you see it's colorful, the cocoa melon. It's a cartoon that my daughter watches. But this little boy, my daughter was 9 months old. This little boy at 1 year old lost his life at a barbecue. And his dad said this: "It just hurts. My son is gone. I don't have nobody. I don't have somebody to call me daddy, daddy, daddy." These are human lives. Where is the children's lives matter? I want that organization to start, because this has been happening for more than a year, and blaming this on racism, negative coverage, and calling me a Karen, as Mayor Lori Lightfoot did, that doesn't solve problems. Let's come together, right and left, because I don't want to see another casket like that of Deval Gardner.
Joey, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think I don't understand why there are excuses and not compassion and just absolutely a fire to act on this. I don't understand. You know, when you blame the gun, really what we were learning is what you're trying to do is protect the culprit. And so there's this whole movement of empathy towards those who find themselves in a position that they need to turn to crime. And I understand that, but not to the detriment of innocent people who don't make that decision. And that's what really bothers me. It's all about gun policy and take guns off the streets. If the gun is bad, then the person pulling the trigger is sure as hell evil. And that's really should be our perspective.